Hey, this is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about how to teach Viticulture World, the cooperative expansion for viticulture. This is not a how to play video, there are other videos for that. This is how to teach it to someone who doesn't already know how to play, and ideally someone who already knows how to play viticulture. I think I have a different video about how to teach that I'll post in the comments below. Because several elements of this video will focus on letting people know who already know viticulture what the differences are in Viticulture World. So the first thing I'd recommend that you tell people is what the goal is, which is that you are working together to get 10 shared influence. 10 shared influence. You can point this out at the bottom of the board here. 10 shared influence. And that each player must reach at least 25 victory points. You can also say in a learning game, depending on how you're feeling about the group, how you're feeling about your own viticulture skills, you can declare at the beginning of the game that instead of going for 25 victory points, you're going to go after 20. This isn't in the rulebook. This is a variant that we added later to make that first game a little bit easier. So that is the objective that you're going for in the game. Step 2 is to use the first game promo pack. I would highly recommend using this promo pack. Every game you play in Viticulture World uses a different continent. There are 7 included in the box, and then on our web store we also offer a promo pack that looks like this. It looks very similar to the Green Gully promo pack, but it has a star up here. You can get this on our web store. It comes for free when you order the expansion on the Stonemaier Games web store. And this just makes it a little bit easier to win that first game. And the first game promo pack is designed specifically to also teach you some of the core concepts of the first game. The next step is to play through the spring with that first game promo pack. So the spring in Viticulture World, in fact, all the seasons are easily delineated on the board itself. So you can see the spring over here. The first step is to reveal a new event card. So you'll just follow the instructions on that event card. You'll reveal some innovation tiles. You don't need to explain what they do yet. And then you'll each choose simultaneously one of the bonuses here on the wake up track. That's very similar to viticulture, except you're choosing simultaneously instead of player by player. After you've done that, and so you can teach kind of, this should be very intuitive to someone who's played viticulture before, except that you're doing simultaneously. The summer is where a few differences come in. In the summer, in Viticulture World, so basically, you're kind of, the core concept that I'm explaining today is you're going to run through a full year in terms of the teaching. It'll take about 5 to 10 minutes just to show people how a year works. So you're going to play the summer. And the first thing before you start placing workers here is to talk about why some of the workers have hats. You'll notice that some of the workers have yellow hats, as you did during setup. Some of them have blue hats. And you'll have to tell players at this point that they can only place workers in the summer that have yellow hats or that have no hats, and that a worker with no hat is called a trained worker. You can go deeper into that concept in the winter once you get to training workers, but that's what you need to let them know about, which workers they're allowed to place in the summer. The action spaces are pretty similar. You have little action spaces. You don't have any bonuses on the action spaces yet. And that's why you'll want to explain how innovation tiles work. So there's this action down here that says pay 4 lira to gain 1 innovation tile. And that's when you'll talk about these 4 tiles that are over here. You have the oval tiles that upgrade the action spaces and add a bonus to those action spaces for any trained workers. And you also have the rectangular tiles that go on specific action spaces to upgrade those actions. Or not action spaces, but actions. So that's what you'll explain next with the innovation tiles. You'll move on to fall quickly. Fall is a quick phase where you'll just choose one of the bonuses for fall. It is a little different in Viticulture World, where instead of just drawing a visitor card, you can draw any card, gain 2 lira, or age 1 grape token. And last, you'll move on to winter. Actually, there is one step after that as well. But in winter, the core concepts that are a little bit different that you'll want to explain here are, there is a new action, sell 1 wine token to gain lira equal to its value. That's new. Doesn't take much explaining, but you'll want to point that out. There's also the core way of gaining influence. Pay 8 lira to gain 1 influence. That's one of the win conditions. And you'll want to point it out here in the first year to emphasize that money is really, really important to win Viticulture World. Money isn't quite as important in the core game of viticulture. And last, you'll talk about training workers a little bit, because the training worker action, as I explained in the summer, is a little bit different. The action is very similar, except that instead of gaining a new worker, because you'll start the game with all the workers you'll ever have in Viticulture World, you'll just be removing a hat from a worker. And so that makes a worker a trained worker that you can place in any season season. When you place them on an oval innovation tile with a bonus, they can then gain that bonus from that worker, and it just gives them a little flexibility because you can place that worker anytime during the year. So talk about training workers there. Finally, you'll get to the year-end checklist. And at the year-end checklist, most everything is the same except for two key differences. One is that you'll discard down to 5 cards instead of 7 cards like in the normal viticulture game. And you'll note that you are playing only 6 years. Viticulture doesn't have a set number of years, but Viticulture World does. You're playing 6 years, so there is some time pressure to complete these goals within those 6 years. But you should mention that at the end of the first game promo pack is a card that can be added to any continent that adds a 7th year if you want it. You kind of add it on the fly. You don't decide in advance. Typically, you would say, okay, we almost reached the goal in the 6th year. Let's play one more year and finish this off and win this game. So you can tell players up front that there's the option of playing a full 7 years instead of 6 in the first game, or any game that you want to play in Viticulture World. And that is how I would teach Viticulture World. Play through a year, explain those core concepts that are a little bit different than the core game, and then start playing year 2. If you have any thoughts about how you teach Viticulture World, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for playing, and I just look forward to hearing your stories about how you teach and how you learn Viticulture World so we can get better at teaching it ourselves. Thanks.